So I'm the Quilting She Shed. I'm Veronica. I'm from located in Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit today. Today we're going to be teaching about free motion. I've been free motioning for started in 2019, and I just got my diamond in April, so I've been free motioning up till that point. So I will show you some different designs and tips and tricks that we can do on the long run today. If there's a particular design you guys would like to learn or do, feel free to mention that, and I'll kind of show you how I do that or that I've learned how to do it. So Miss Judy probably knows more about free motion than I do.
This is all brand new to me. We find diamonds.
Okay, so this is a diamond.
Thank you.
This is a diamond, and this is a pro. So I do a lot of free motion on my pro, and my diamond has electronics, so you're able to unhook to the electronics and then do free motion where you're actually physically moving the machine. The electronics are not doing it for you. You're welcome. And then somebody had asked where the encoders are and how that the stitch actually happens. So the encoders are located there's a carriage that the machine sits in, located on the X and Y axis. So left and right of the machine. So one rolls on the frame behind it, and one rolls in that carriage on this side. So hi, Miss Cindy. It's so good to see you. Thank you for sitting with us. I'm glad you came to class today. So just to go over some different lighting features that we have here on the diamond. When you're working on a white on white quilt, something like this up here, you're able to change that to cooler or warmer. If you're doing free motion work, that can really help so you can be able to see the details a little bit better. And then we also have UV lights, so you're using a bright colored thread or something like that. You're able to see it and that actually makes it glow and illuminate the inside. I'm going to start out teaching some. I like to do a lot of roses on mine, and I feel like that's one of the easiest ones to start out with. But basically, if you know 5 different designs, you can free motion really well. So you start out with loops. Hi, Poppy.
Good morning.
Good morning. Loops, swirls. And so you're going to take a swirl for free motion. You're going to start out like you're doing a swirl. And then you're just going to do pop out. This. Okay. Another thing, which I didn't mention earlier, when I'm trying out different free motion patterns, this is a cheap way to try out free motion patterns. So this is just a shower curtain from the dollar store. And then I can lay it over top of my piece here. I can draw on it with a dry erase marker, and I can showcase different free motion designs for some of my clients. So this is an easy way to do that. Say, well, I'm going to free motion this and this block, and this is why I think we're looking this block for. Maybe that doesn't look good at all after you put it on the shower curtain and showed them, and you should reconfigure that. But you can do almost an entire quilt this way. You can also use washable markers if you know you're gonna wash the quilt after, or there's friction pins which we have available in our shop here today. You can mark. I didn't use them in our class because we have blue fabric and they're actually a blue marker. And then you go over it with the iron and it actually will erase those. So a lot of times I'll pre-draw out my design so I know that it's going to fit in that space. And I kind of don't get too close to the edge. And then if I'm going to do a fill, I'll fill in after. So I'm going to pretend that I'm doing a border here this morning. And I'm going to just draw on my fabric here as if there were a border here. And you can use a straight edge. You can use the pantograph patterns. you can, like I said, put your top, it's on the top of there, and if there's a particular can wrap pattern you want from, put that on the top of there, with this clear stuff, and trace that design on there. Or use a stencil, as I showed yesterday in our class, lay that stencil down, chalk it out, or stencil it in, and be able to try that and get that muscle memory. It's a lot of free motion quilting. It's learning the muscle memory with seeing the machine. So I'm gonna start out here. I'm gonna start in the center of the rows that I'm gonna start. Sorry, coming up, yeah, my water.
The other noise, and want to see what's going on.
One was saying that.
So I'm marking it with dots, and those are gonna kind of try to float the center of my pieces.
That's not sturdy. Do you mind like that? Thank you.
Yeah, there's cameras.
Well, I have two.
Oh, you have two?
Yep.
Okay.
Y'all can come around here if you want to,
Okay, behind.
but not completely behind the tree, but just stand right here. Right here. I want you all to be able to see and understand. So I'm gonna start in the center here. This choice taught me this week, but I'm flossing my bobbin. Look at that, I did it. And then I'm gonna take another stitch over top of that to lock that in, okay, on free motion. We're freaking guys, we're freaking. Maybe I'm gonna be hold on, just a minute.
You can come right up here if you want. It's just it's the frame. It's not steady, and that's what's balancing this. So if it falls, it'll. Sorry, we had another one yesterday, but the stand's.
The back of the machine handles were, you know, regulated. I do both.
Okay.
Yeah, cruise is great too, because when you go into those stitches, it actually slows that motor down. My attack table was in that. Well, back there. Try it out. You go into the portal. Come on, Audrey. We're gonna give it a go. So what we're gonna do is go over to the point like the twirl, and then I'll put this. Just the super buttons. Actually, yes, there we go. There we go. We're go up here and go into the twirl. I'm just gonna
doesn't have to be exactly uniform, does it?
No, it doesn't. So it's like up to your discretion. So you can do them tighter or looser.
I see you go over yourself. That's not a big deal either. Is it?
No. There you go.
Shouldn't. Those paper stitches.
Hey, Veronica, when you're doing that, can you step back so people online can see?
I'm glad to see someone else struggles.
Push the right button. And that's how you do it. It's just a simple rose. You just like feel like you're going back from the point. Also, if you guys want to try out a different design, you can have iPad or something like that. You can go to Quilting online and take and try and draw that full picture and draw that because that gives you more memory.
Yeah.
A whiteboard.
I use a dry grease.
The whiteboard, you can take a whiteboard with an expo marker and go ahead and try that out as well. But, and then if you want to do like different stuff, like I could do with the vines, it's just like your mirror, like your shadow work. Another easy one to do. Let's do it. Let's do it. There's some good- If you don't want it to look, you can do.
You're good, Audrey.
We're doing Hawaiian flower. And the spring outline. And then I'll do a inside one.
Right, is there anything wrong with using your use rulers
No,
to do
actually,
free
a
motion?
lot of times the free motion I use a high vis, but there's got that gap in the front, and I can see when you're going, what you're doing. So if you've already laid out a line, you can see in there and guide yourself on the grade. It just has a little bit of a gap up in the front of. Was there a particular design somebody, oh, a particular design on the left side of the wall? And I can show you over here, but maybe learn the mechanics side, or the focus. And, you know, I don't know who said that you can't pull over the line. But a lot of people go on the line, it's still looks pretty.
I think that's with that you hear that.
Anybody have a particular design on here?
Anybody what? Have
A particular design you'd like to learn today?
remote control.
Feathers?
Oh, feathers.
It's like our here, the end, at the end of your quilt. Same.
For stippling? Is that what you're asking?
You're doing this here at the beginning. Well, you can manage the same dimensions at the end of your, you know, when you're pre-motioning your,
Another thing is you can
I struggle with that.
you can use a ruler. So I would mark it. I think I have one.
Okay, you're talking about using washable
Yeah, so I would use a ruler and say, okay,
and mark,
mine's about this big.
yeah,
And I would mark it on the ruler here too.
so that you
And then I would
use that
place
as
it somewhere else and use it somewhere else on there. And then that would tell me, okay, well, you can always pause the machine and stop and then, oh, I'm about there.
yes,
This one's probably a little bit too big, you know,
yes,
but to keep that consistency all the way around your quilt, that's what I would do.
okay.
And then you,
Start small, and then by the time you get to the end of it, it's a little larger, and I'm not the only one that happens to.
well,
Thank you.
Quilting,
It happens in,
that happened easily.
happens in crochet and everything, you know.
also taking breaks, so I always tell one people, I think I reiterated this on one of the classes this weekend, is 20 minutes a day equals 100 hours a year. You're going in there for 20 minutes and you're used to doing the same, you're moving the machine, turning on the machine, oiling your machine, just doing your daily maintenance and things like that. Then you're gonna get used to that and be able to, you know, take time to learn things like free motion for like 10 minutes, you know, you can do it for 10 minutes. You'll get used to it and be able to be very consistent with how you're doing it. But you can even pull up designs and take and continue traits online to try and learn different free motion designs as well.
Okay, and you're talking about muscle memory and things like that. Okay.
So like if you have a whiteboard, you're sitting on the couch or whatever, and you're like, I'm thinking about this design for a quilt. You take and draw it out, get your iPad. You're out on your iPad and you're trying to, you know, do this feather that's up there. Which I can show you feathers real quick too. You can start with like an S. So say I wanted a feather for all this. So I always start with an S. I actually have stencils that I use to block produce. And I can say, hey, I'm gonna try this. But on the stencils, the more consistent, it'll give you, it use a stencil that's gonna fill that area. So these stencils got hot, so then I stripped it over with stencils. These stencils.
They were reasonable. We were looking at them last night. But what she was saying is she was looking at them on my iPad and she would trace how she would stitch it just with her finger, you know, decide whether she would want to do that. She did not want to, oh, then we have to come back and do this, and that would be more difficult.
Hey, Audrey.
And on those stencils as well, on the stencils that you use, they'll show you like what path you actually, like there'll be a diagram on there, what path you actually need to go to use those. So, I'm using that to kind of hold and steady myself as well.
You do that a lot.
I use my room a lot. What I think when I am doing these designs, though, what I think is, imagine you're holding a giant pencil, right? So my hand is here. These can also move for you. And I am with my stool out here today, but if I'm doing a lot of detailed work, you can sit down on that stool and be able to move the machine around. But it's like holding a giant parallel pencil to your needle. So just imagine you're holding a really big crayon or something like that. So look at it as a quilt as an entire canvas. And what kind of art do I want to create on it? That's free motion or fill this space with. Don't just look at it in little sections of the quilt because it's all over. That's what you're going to get. Even though this is the part you're looking at currently, you know, sometimes you can do a little bit over here. Maybe you don't like that design so much. You go and fill over here with just to make it even. And then do something like that maybe you are a little bit different. You're like, oh, well, I'm going to try that. So I do a small fill like this in here. I would actually turn, say I want some hand looking. So I turn the Stitch's solution.
Do that in your probe also. Different fire.
Yeah. I can turn those up and they'll world with the solution. But it gives a little bit of different texture as well. And I can actually change it on here on the fly. Okay, I'm going to go back down what it is. And then when you go in really yeah, absolutely. And that's the rule.
Depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's why they made them be able to change those on the fly. So I'll just go back down to well, I'm here. You can ask questions. So you're able to fill that. Even though I use different stitch lengths, it looks like I made it to look like that. Anyway, you just get up here and look.
Is the trend towards tighter quilting?
I think it's different for every quilt. So
Depends on your top.
yeah, so if you're going for like a modern quilt, if I'm quilting something with nature or something like that, it's gonna be a little bit different. So the water might be tighter, or you kind of want a different like loop stitch like this. I'll show you. If you're quilting water, you may feel, instead of doing a normal stipple, like this, sideways, right?
Yeah.
But this is not our normal stipple. Normal stipple, you would go like this, and you out, kind of like a puzzle piece.
Yeah.
Like the one. But I think there's different tricks with fun. If you're doing a tree, you maybe add some leaves in there, put some leaves elements, or if you're doing hair, you know, you're gonna want to tighten up your stitches and make those fine lines in between each one.
And wood grain on the bark.
Yeah.
Because I felt comfortable doing stitch type, just meandering. That would make me very nervous. Oh my God. Beautiful.
But just use some overwork and feathers and just think of it as you know, set it out, draw it on there, or draw it on a shower curtain and hey, I'm at this place, I'm gonna place it over this and see where I'm at on my design or something. Does anybody else have any questions? Eric?
Monopolizing the question. Excuse me.
Leanna's got it.
I'm sorry, didn't get like my twig. My hand in your face.
Okay. So you have a ruler plate. I have a ruler plate on here. The same ruler plate we were using yesterday. I moved it, but up underneath here, I have a ruler plate so that I can kind of steady my hand as I'm going to draw. So, I say draw because it's like a big pencil I imagine it is. Okay, well, you have a pro? They're available in the shop today, so. And when I taught my ruler class, we really, a lot of people do use their ruler book with this application and this, but I use a high vis with that one.
If you didn't have that ruler plate there, then if you're pressing down like it,
You're just gonna be on your quilt top.
you're gonna have
Yeah, you're gonna have,
more just, and it's not
Yeah.
gonna be as precise.
Renee, do you have any questions?
I don't have so many questions.
Okay, well, that's what I'm here for. What kind of machine do you have?
I have a flare
Okay, great.
and I'm just still trying to get comfortable.
So
with
the
it.
flare has the same stitch regulation, but it's
Yes,
a
that
flare.
looks familiar.
Okay,
It's just a little smaller screen, but that's
okay.
okay. That's
Do you
fine.
need me to explain any of those?
No,
Or you?
No, I'm joking when I say I have so many questions. I don't know what to ask.
Okay.
I'm here to get a feel and
How far did you travel from today?
what is the like?
Okay,
You know where that is? North of Waterloo City Falls.
Okay.
About 15 minutes.
okay, that's not too bad.
Just up and step down the road.
Do you have any questions?
How do you decide what? Like, see if they, like, to have a lot of stage.
So
It's kind of an artistic.
you can showcase different designs. A lot of times when I'm out, like I was out last night, I went to Pickle Palace, okay, downtown, right? So I'm in the elevator, I'm like, oh, those floors look like quilt tiles, like, you know, so you can showcase. Yeah, so you can, I'm like, what design would I quilt to that? So I would probably, if it was a grandmother's flower garden, for example, on this one. So you can even look on Pinterest or, I'm drawing a blank here. Different online designs, say, look up the particular quilt and see what designs that they've put in there. But like for grandmother's flower garden, I would go in each individual flower petal to do loops all the way around. And when you get done at the end, it's gonna look really, really nice when you get it done. But you know, it was 1.5 inch, that's gonna take some time. So take breaks. And, I just showcase different designs. I'll take my, I forget the name of that stuff, the plastic, and lay it over there and try those different designs. If I get a design that I want to showcase and then try and fast fill it with something, you know, Do you think that it's easy enough for you to put it back to?
I have an exploding part.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
There's a lot of.
I liked the Wicked one that they did with the pink and the green.
Well, this one is teal and dark gray.
So I would actually do ruler work in something like that
You would.
because all the corners,
Well, that would be all my corners.
your corners don't need to match, but
Triangles. Yeah.
this particular ruler, I would put that in one corner and go to the other corner, flip it around to the other corner and go up. And then if you have like all that background, I would probably pick something that's a swirl or something easy for you to do. But inside of all the triangles that you actually sew together, I would probably do something like this. You want me to show you how that works? I can. I'll have a ruler flip on your right, so you change it out, show you.
So basically, yeah, show me.
Absolutely.
I loaded it last night. I don't know what to do.
Well, I love that too.
After I went to the loading thing on Thursday, then I loaded it.
Now I'm gonna roll this fold up so we can explode. It's her exploding hard fold. Okay? There's one king size quilt this year that I did. And each individual quilt block, I did a different design in it. So that I could learn different free motion designs on that quilt block. So then essentially you can hang that quilt up and go, oh yeah, I can do this design, I can do this design.
See,
My ruler plate's already on here, so I don't need to add a ruler plate. Your ruler plate for your flare? Nope.
I'm not sure what you're referring to. So now.
I did. I changed the foot. To the ruler foot.
but that's the one I use all over. Because it's easier for me to thread.
Okay.
Not that far.
It's a different foot.
I changed the foot to the ruler foot. We have a foot bundle that's available in the shop that's got, so if you're doing camera crafts, I changed it to a spoon foot. Ruler foot is for ruler work. It has a face plate, so the face plate underneath it. Yeah, so that you're actually able to do ruler work on there. Because around two it just have this part.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. So I'm gonna pretend it's your triangle. Yeah. Okay, can you show the cross that from the quilt? Yeah. I'm just gonna do some random triangles, right? And what's good about this is you can flip it out and say, and
Right.
okay.
May I take?
So I'm gonna pretend that we have some triangles here, right? Because we're gonna explain it.
Except they're like a fourth.
not exactly the most even line, but oh, we're working on it here. Okay. We're using regular. Regular. Okay, my triangles are not incorrectly connected, so I'll just clear them out. It's gonna be the same way on a regular quilt.
Color.
At the bottom.
Red.
I would use a variegated blue or a blue, steel blue. And then on the brown, I would use like a,
I've got the gunmetal gray
that's okay.
because it is gray. It's not.
And then I would take in, I would do, I'm gonna show you here in a second. I'm gonna go get a book common.
Yeah.
And in a second, I'll show you what I would still have background. I would probably do swirls or something. So,
This one would look cool to it, but this will never happen.
oh,
That took me 3 years. I had to put this one.
oh, gosh.
That's over. I talked about distortion. Okay, this is- So pretty. It's my junior.
I'm sure.
This is for my granddaughter. I don't know. This, I've got so many grandchildren. They either being born or. Graduates. They're all.
Did I do that?
No. No, so you do a light grit on that and then a smooth. But what you want is, you don't want to be able to grab full fist. You want to be able to like, pull it up and shift your position for extreme tight. So you're welcome.
Yeah. And it's so scary. And then you look at that.
I would like to do the swirl that you would do, and how do I just not even try to keep it for just do different things, so you know.
Just practice, you know. Well, sorry. It's gonna be fun. Practice. Okay, here's the screen out here. I can stop. We're going slow. One, two, three, what we did it. You can do it.
I like the loops. The loops is fun.
The loop.
They had like a doodle.
So the loop,
Pardon?
the loops of the pearls.
I like these.
Yeah, those are easy.
I've done this type of thing. It looks like, I'm not consistent. No, I kind of follow the block size, but to me it looks like water. So. Well, it's straight line. So. Oh, that would have been.
My husband is.
Yeah, that. Would you then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And fill in.
But, yeah, once it, then I would straight, use the rulers to straight.
How do you
around the-
Yeah.
Just to define. But
You
would
try
you
to match
go
the
inside that border or just leave it?
back,
'Cause it's only like this wide.
coordinating.
Well, you know.
If you're gonna do all of
Like
this,
the off-white.
yeah.
I don't know. Yes, yes.
Something like
On this.
Oh, now would you quote all?
And I
of
think
these
it's only
triangles?
the.
Yeah.
It's all sticky, that way you don't lose your, it's all over.
And then don't fill in.
And
your-
even if it's just like this,
Yeah.
you're overlapping that tone, it's fine. It's fine.
I've done this a lot.
Yeah.
Just go point to point and practice.
Comfortable with this.
Yeah, but don't do like.
But like I said, my
Or
squirrels
would you do
up
something
here
maybe like this?
are smaller tater.
I know.
Sure, and that's.
Or-
Yeah.
I would use a wood.
But not color.
I would do.
And that's what I like.
Don't worry.
Oh, really?
So.
My friend wants. Oh, wow. What's it? Oh, do they really? Is that the Iowa State Fair? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. What one next guy? Okay.
Never get.
Oh. Well, I will try to fill on this sometime.
Where are you
My friend
from?
thinks about it.
Oh, bless your.
We're heading back here. No, I was. Wow.
Sounds like the right one, that's the goal.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's so, yeah, I can go to that every year. When I start one out. But I was just thinking.
I do that.
Bless his heart.
Yeah.
No, it's all me.
That's okay, that's fine. So he did buy.
He did buy. Well, the thing is,
I knew you
in the city.
Very well.
She did one.
I did one.
So obviously, mine was better.
If you're in a t-shirt, would you do anything?
And I do have one.
Because I do those for all the drinks. Are you trading it pro?
No.
Oh, you?
Oh, Will. Yeah. Different. Will. I could put one on.
He's 79. And he's been on here.
It's fine.
And he's a singer. Yes. And
Right.
Yeah, but it was not that. Are you happy with your temperature? I didn't want to. What? And yet now I can't do a cake.
I don't know. She lives close. Especially when I get a good one, she can see, I can see her voice. I haven't had a lot of time.
I'm gonna advertise these. I'm like,
Now, I'm just. One move to Tennessee, one move to Oklahoma. One of the.
So two of them.
She comes in, brings her machines, makes a week.
I bought them like a brand.
Had your sewing.
Yeah, we had a good time. Nobody's doing breakfast good. And then
Right? And it took me forever. Because you know?
And then you got this much and finish it up.
oh, you can show her.
Right, don't just.
You are this? No, on the. Yeah. No, you show me. Use a ruler.
Oh, the video. You might have it. I think that was learning how to do that.
Find it. You can follow your pattern.
Just
Well, I
used to my mom.
use this when.
No. Okay, and then connect the two in. That's what I watch it.
Yes, and
I've got
they
it.
still them and give each other and signatures. Same pattern. And then we did individual. It was like laundry material.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
We had a lot, and everybody else was visual. We were having a while to doing this, and then on the back of that.
Do you have it hanging or is it on the bed?
It's over. Go up the stairs.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very like.
Yeah.
Sure. No, I don't want to. Thank you.
This.
Yeah.
It's funny how some pictures see it like that. Can't really see their face. You can do that. It is different.
Yeah.
I'm just having. I'm gonna go
I my own. I finally bought my own. Headlight. Oh, way down there. Okay, came a long way. Thank you.
When you're in film, you gotta.
Okay, give me.
Yeah, people just want it. Yeah.
It's opposite color on the front to match the back and the back.
I have like the guy.
I gotta get more.
Those are actually not real quick.
She's
Yeah, this is the.
Okay. This one's for North Carolina. It's not. But it's
So
not-
you're probably not gonna use strategic class.
And she's not charging,
I did ants all around.
but she has all kinds of.
Ants?
And I did, I wanted them all next to ants. Like, and I got it on it,
But sure.
I started.
But they have.
I had them upside down.
Oh.
Took it out.
Yeah. So what's your
Moved it properly.
strings and seeds?
Sat down, picked it all night.
Oh, I've done that.
What is the?
I'm in.
I always shook right, and then I put the little piece of bread, yeah.
But I hope the, president, all of it, vacation birds, and, really young. And I'm being ready.
No,
It just bothered me.
it would bother me now.
Yeah, and then redid it. Put it back in the frame.
Yeah.
Well, now you think,
Staple. I'm gonna try to send some on Facebook. So sure. You see what I want?
Yeah.
Red, black, and white one.
the,
The red and white one.
I still have to.
I got it.
And they were to send them. Sure.
And then we're gonna do it for an
Oh, excellent. Do you like so? Website or Shopify or?
like.
Okay, yeah, so do I. Other stores are happy too.
Yeah, she didn't show me.
I don't know about automation.
No, I don't. But I love all these
one likes to be able to do things like this, like books.
Oh, well,
And, you know, now I see that there's so many options for doing that. You know, it would be hard to do that with automation because it's not edge to edge. It's, right, I know, and I saw Joyce's thing yesterday, yeah.
well, you can only.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I got that.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want.
Yeah.
When I make stars, I'm still learning. Oh, you're not talking about the pattern.
Yeah, I was just sketching myself. There's a photograph back here that has these stars with swirls. And it's called a wire star or something like that. But, yeah.
I got into a class and they asked about ruler stuff again, so I just thought, let's show. We have one. Oh, I should
Yeah.
Oh, I did three motions for you.
My son-in-law was stationed in,
How'd that one go?
and
It looks good. I think my best class this week though was probably my but I'm kind of new to teaching this. And then it's like today. Yeah.
Are you teaching the 11 class also?
I'm with her teaching. So.
You're teaching the 11 class. We're joint. We're tag teaming it.
Okay, I'm gonna go grab some supplies.
And then you try to make one. They told them. I don't support uses, which is that, or you go Washington, where do you want to go? Washington.
yeah.
I'm like, why couldn't they run it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put Washington and more just to make sure that it's correct. Next, I think that's where next. Where the chair knows where we're at. And obviously it had a hit on it, took it off, so I had no idea why. I don't need that. For the lock up, the look up.
Oh, the books?
Yeah.
Well,
We got some stuff. We'll get.
which one are you looking for? Oh, the slate.
Yeah. Actually, we'll be trying to go well, so,
Now, what I actually.
yeah. That's why I gotta knock it up. Check. Okay. And then you take it over. That way. And then set it up. Put to the side.
Order.
No, yeah. Right now, it's the only thing. Oh. How you doing? Yeah, oh, I can sit. What, bro? I was expecting. They are. I'm quite sure.
Got it.
Yeah.
This Bible minder that you got for
Yeah.
Veronica / Lana, is that brand new?
Yeah.
It is, okay.
I asked her.
I just like to be sure that it's not
I
wrong.
did like four. Yeah, it's actually called a
I just make sure.
legging organizer. Yeah, or a sweater. So that's what I use. So, I mean, you can find those from, wholesale type places, but this was $10. So I hold it, each one hold 4 or 5. Pantos. So that way, yeah, and they're vertical. I mean, they're horizontal this way, so they're not, clogged.
I sold all the ones up here.
So it's like,
I
I just loaded. What is that?
We sold all the ones.
So, we're gonna keep-
Here.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. And you're spending $7 for the meal.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be some. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to find it. Yeah. Yeah.
We sell over. We sell a lot. So this.
But it's-
The fun pulse is here.
Oh, yeah, it's just- I was-
You're the difference is you're gonna have a.
Yeah.
Everybody want to kind of come gather around? We'll get started on our next class here.
I'm saying that she is.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay, so I'm Brenna and this is Veronica. You know,
wait for Lana. She
Oh,
wants to
she-
learn about something.
okay, we'll give this a second here.
Just check it out, to bring stuff to the car.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I think she might give up for the.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm late.
Oh,
Sorry, Robert.
I'm borrowing your desk. I'm sorry. You okay?
Hello, Wendy. Nice to see you again.
Good day is today.
Very busy. Yeah. Very busy. I'm just pleased tomorrow.
Did they, this year is the last day of the county fair. Down our county. I did a book camp. with
Yeah.
40 students this year.
Nice.
So they all did, books of valor. named
Yeah,
top
yeah, that's good.
veterans.
So.
And so, they presented them to the veterans last night. So that was really cool. We did, the campers made 10 quilts, and then I made an 11, they all made 16 batch as picture practice ones, so we talked about that. And then 2 more tops donated, so we presented 13, I quilted 7 of them from the end of camp, so that's nice. Well, actually, we had to get them done before the 4th because the kids had finds them all. So we probably not hand bind. So we presented 13. So I quilted like 7 of them. Washington. That is south of here, so south of Johnson County. So really, they did a really good job presenting this program. It was a fun. They've got a huge 4-H program down there. So not a huge population wise, but other than Des Moines, the city of Des Moines, there's more 4-Hers. in
Veronica, you
Washington
guys are good to go. We don't, Nathan took the mic. We don't have
Okay, so I am Veronica, and she's lost most of her voice, so I'm gonna try and do most of the talking today, unless she wants to do more. So we're just gonna kind of have a little bit of a free-form discussion here on some of the little tricks and tips and some of the products that we've used and picked up over the years to help out with things that make quilting a little bit easier and a little bit more successful. So some of these things are going to be things that are sold here. Some of them are things that maybe we picked up over the years that are not necessarily here, but we like having around, that I like having around, that just make life a little bit easier as we're going along doing the program. So one of the first ones that I have found that is absolutely essential is the toe bobbin gauge. How many of you have one of these? Okay, good. I use almost exclusively pre-wound bobbins. That's a personal preference on my part, but I have discovered for me that using pre-wound bobbins and a toe bobbin gauge gets rid of probably 90% of my tension problems. So what I do is I use the glide bobbins that are here or superior pre-wound bobbins. Pretty much exclusively. That's all I use. I have shelves full of them in a variety of colors. I match them to whatever the closest match to my top thread is. And I know if I'm using a glide pre-wound bobbin, that if I set this to 140, I do not have to mess with my bobbin gauge. So I will set this to 140, and then I will put in my top thread, and I will tighten up my top tension to just where I can start to see the bobbin thread through the top. And then I'll back it off a little bit, and then I don't have to worry about my tension. So I only mess with my top tension once I get my bobbin tension thread. And so I know with a glide bobbin, this is what I need to set it to, and I know with the superior bobbin, what I need to set it to, and it makes my life so much easier. That's me.
So I have both. I have pre-wound bobbins and a toe gauge, but I always mark my extra bobbin, and then I have an additional bobbin. So I mark my pre-wound because you take that spring out of the bottom of there. I mark my pre-wound with paint tape, or paint, not painter's tape, but painter markers. So that I know that's my pre-wound bobbin, and then I have my regular bobbin case, is what we're talking about here. So that's a little bit different. And then in Joyce's book, it also talks about what you should set it to based on what machine you have and with the toe gauge. If you guys wanted us to show you how to use the toe gauge, we'd be happy to do that here too.
And every machine is probably a little bit different. Like what machine is happiest at what tension is probably a little bit different.
I'm like a 125 gal for my trail, and then I'm upper 160s, 175 for my diamond.
Yeah. And it's different with different bobbins. And like when I use superiors for some, and when Superior changed the way they wound their bobbins, they changed their center cores, they switched suppliers, I had to switch the tension. So it varies with the type of bobbin. But it does make life infinitely easier when you use a toe gauge, because then you're not constantly messing with that bobbin tension. I know people do like to wind their bobbin sometimes, so they're matching their thread exactly. I find if I use a combination of white, gray, dark gray, cream, I've got maybe half a dozen different neutrals. I can match top thread to, those half a dozen different neutrals, and it's pretty close for most things. So I've got pre-wounds in a variety of colors, and that does pretty good with pretty much everything. So this is, if there's one thing that I recommend most people get, it's usually the toe gauge, because it's tension that drives people nuts more than anything else, and stops people from quilting more than anything else. And this, to me, helps more solve that problem better than anything else, is the toe bobbin gauge. So please, this would be the one thing. So the other things that we kind of recommend having for basic maintenance, these guys, very useful, precision oiler. So how many took the maintenance class? Do you remember when they talked about doing the bobbin case? Very useful for that. So keeping this guy around. Remember how often you're supposed to do the bobbin case?
Every other problem.
Every other bobbin. So this is very useful for getting into that bobbin case. So much easier than most other things. So then you've got, other than that, your regular sewing machine oil to get those top things. So I like to save this for doing down below, just because it's, you know, it's easier to.
Is that the syllable? No, the little one.
The little one? I don't know, I've never tried refilling it.
I don't think it is.
I have to look and see.
That would be handy.
This is another useful little gadget. So does anybody know what this is? This is a stand that goes back here underneath your spool, and it helps keep the thread from pooling down on your combs. So really easy, just slips back onto here and keeps your thread from pooling down there. Brings me to the other thing you should be using on your cones, which is thread net. Always use thread net. So helps keep the thread on there. There's not one on there right now. There should be.
Here's one on the pink spool.
Yep.
And then I have some.
Yep. So there's thread nets. Helps immensely keep the thread coming off the cone evenly. Because how often have we all caught thread on the bottom of our cone there? Catches, messes up.
Very similar story.
So using that and using thread net.
I love that.
And one of the things I learned about last time I was here, which I've had my machine for like 10 years and didn't know,
You have a pro or you have
I have a pro,
okay.
putting a vertical spool on this.
Oh,
I'd never done that before. I had no idea. So you can put a cone, or not a cone, a regular spool of thread, vertically round spool of thread on here. And put it on here and then wind it down through here. And there are somewhere, I don't know if I have them, little caps. So you can put 2 caps to hold your regular spool of thread right here. Which I bought last time I was here because I had no idea. So that was very handy to have. To use a small spool, a regular spool of thread as opposed to a cone. Because that again, it's coming straight off. What?
How do you attach the holder?
This is on your machine.
Oh, it's already on it.
Yeah.
It's
This
on
is,
all the top, so you
Yeah.
actually can have you can put it on laser active too.
Mhm.
Laser on the bottom as well.
yeah. So
And then
I'll.
I use embroidery thread and then I should be down my heel.
You can see it over here. And there's little caps. We've got them somewhere that we're holding quick. Just slide onto there. They'll go onto your machines. Well, if you're using a cone of thread, you just want the thread to come straight off. So if you put a vertical cone or a vertical spool of thread, you know, like your old Coats and Clark or a spool of thread like that, you're pulling it off the top and it will catch on the top of the thread and you're not pulling it evenly. You want it to come off evenly. You want it to come off straight of that because that way you get an even tension. So if you have it here, it's coming off sideways, so it's coming evenly off that spool of thread.
The spool is laying.
The spool is laying sideways.
So the spool is laying sideways, but imagine your regular like sewing machine thread on here. I've even used like the embroidery thread on this particular one here. I don't know the caps, but
Yeah, there's little caps that hold them like
that's what for Uncle we find caps.
yeah. So you can use those and just hold it in place, and it just, you know, and that's why a regular sewing machine, that spool is vertical and it comes like off of this. So because that's the way on any sewing machine, you want the thread coming off the same direction as it comes off the cone. So a cone is designed to come off vertically. A spool, it's designed to come off horizontally, and that's just to keep the tension even and steady as it comes off, however it's spun off whatever's holding the thread, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, the cone or the spool.
Yeah.
So So those are handy to have. But I didn't realize that until I was up here this last summer. I was like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. So that was one of my most recent purchases. So other handy things to have. The different feet. I think we talked about the different feet at the various classes over the summer, or over the week. We talked about.
Right there on the cart.
So those are very handy to have.
Or the bench, I don't know what.
Um,
Take it ready for it.
your brushes, obviously, you should all have brushes, and they should all be close by, keeping everything brushed out. Most of us have some variety of pin holder or pin cushion close by. So just stuck on our machine to hold the pins. The magnetic bowl. The ruler foot, or the ruler base. So how many of you have one of these?
Yes.
So very handy to have if you're going to do, I mean, necessary to have if you're going to do any sort of ruler work. So wonderful to have. Even basic stitch in the ditch is a really good place to start ruler work, but even with that, you need your ruler base. This is the one for the pro.
Is that one for the diamond?
Pro and the diamond
That's
are the
correct,
same. Yeah. Marking tool, a variety of marking tools. So anytime you start doing free motion or ruler work. So this is the Mark Be Gone. This is one that they carry up front. Really good one to have. This is the blacklight pencil. So if you're working on darker fabrics or anything like that, you need a black light to use this one, but very handy if you're using the black light. There's a couple other marking tools that I will frequently use as well. I don't know if you talked about chalk pads.
Yep.
When you're doing stencil, chalk pads. There's some chalk marking pens that I use, like ones with the little rollers that I'll use. Water soluble marking pens I'll use. So I've got a variety of different marking pencils and pens that I'll use. There's different marking tools that I'll use along with the marking pencils. One that I use with free motion, one tool that I use is actually a buttonhole marker. It's a sewing tool. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it. It kind of folds up like an accordion to space buttonholes. But I actually have one of those, and it just lets you space things evenly across any. What is it called? It's a buttonhole marker. So it folds up like an accordion, and it's got 8 marks on it. But it just lets you space any number of between 1 and 8 marks across any even space. And so you can mark it, but it's a buttonhole marker. Used to be able to buy it at Joann's. I'm sure you can get it off of Amazon now. But that, if you're doing any sort of, spacing of designs across a border of a quilt or something, or, marking a curve across a buttonhole marker, and then, you have to take this and just there's your little loops, and so you can loop across to get your evenly marked designs. So that's actually, it's a pretty handy little gizmo to have. If you're trying to get evenly straight marks across. This is an absolute necessity. If you don't have it, draw.
Get choice to find.
Get choice decided. You can get the autograph copy while you're here. So this is an absolute necessity while you're here. So this is an essentials kit that they sell. Which is very handy to have. So it has got an extra bobbin case. This is the M size one. So you just want to make sure you get the right size one. There's an extra bobbin case, a couple extra bobbins, a couple extra needles. These are encoder wheels. So on the back to change out your encoder rings, an extra check spring. This guy, I don't know how many the rest of you have broken off this guy. I certainly have the needle collar. So little extra tools, just very handy set of things to have around for emergency repairs. Very nice to have around. These are really great little set of scissors to have around. Microtip scissors. Helps when you take that stitch that you really didn't need to take. That happens to all of us sometimes. These are microtips. I don't know how many of you have seen these scissors. It's basically kind of seam ripper scissors almost. Excellent set of scissors to have around when you're sewing.
And then I have the holder on the side of mine.
Yeah.
that I actually place the scissors
Mhm.
on each of the shoes, which they really right here in the shop.
Yep, scissor holders. I've attached a magnet to the side of mine, and I keep self-threading needles attached to there. So I have a pack of self-threading needles that I use. So I use those to bury my threads. So self-threading needles makes burying the threads a heck of a lot quicker and easier than regular needles. So I don't know if any of you use that particular trick to bury the threads, but that makes life a whole lot easier. So I bought a pack of 100 of those off of Amazon. And use those all the time to bury threads. I just shared a trick storing pantographs. So somebody had asked about the storage thing back there. I bought a legging or sweater holder off of Amazon for $10. And so I use that.
I have a t-shirt.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of
Yeah, to store pantographs. So those are some of the quick tips and items that are here and that we find really helpful.
Or if you have shoes, like a giant shoe, you can pick up those appropriate and you pick those up and put your pantographs and then you can have them for clients so that they can, oh, this is the pantograph number I want, and then put it in a book of, hey, this is the pantographs that I offer. And so they're able to flip through the book and match the number of pantograph, and you just go over to your holder and pull that pantograph off.
Yes.
Mentioned sewing with soft ends. Are they all interchangeable?
The sewing needles I get were the self-threading needles. All my needles I get from here.
I
And you have a flare. You have a flare, so you have an L bobbin, correct?
I have the smaller one. This is
Yeah,
L,
so
okay.
so L
Thank you.
bobbin, and then you want a size 19 needle or a size 18 needle.
Okay.
So one up, one down. Guys, shop for us to use a 19.
Okay. But you're saying fine. Here.
Yeah.
Don't get one. No, okay.
Are you Nolting brands?
The needle?
Yeah.
No.
No.
They get them. They're growth factors, aren't they?
Yeah.
So there's other. Growth Fatman is a pretty well-known brand.
Well, my question, my reason for the question is, we're at my store, if I'm gonna carry needles for long arms, would they all potentially use the growth spectrum needles?
And if you go on to Growth Spectrum's website, they've got a page on their website where they explain like all of the markings on the front of their package. And they go through all of the markings on that package as to what each of those numbers and letters means, where they indicate what's a ballpoint needle, where they indicate what the size, where they indicate what the material is that the needle's made out of, all that good stuff.
It's like FFG is ballpoint. MR, you should always be using and bobbin pins. What is it considered? It's a lot to try and remember.
There's a lot, but there's a good reference page on Growth Spectrum's website that I've got bookmarked
If you
on
want
there
us to
too.
come up front, we can try and just pin that.
Any other questions or?
Comment.
Yeah.
Not the front one.
Yeah.
It looks like a piece of
Batting?
that. What's the purpose of that? And when should you use it?
I use mine all the time.
All the
I
time?
have taken mine off since I got my machine back from Nolting. They usually stick it in there.
Yeah,
You can
mine's,
you can either thread it through there. It keeps your, it'll help you pop it in the way. Coming out of the shipper, but
so it just holds it in place and keeps it, it's not tight through there really. This piece of batting here.
Yeah.
It just keeps it from flying out. It's not tight per se. It just keeps it smooth and from flopping
I
away.
change mine out when I do make it and stuff like that. Cause it'll get to be every time. I take it, I'll put it in there, clean out my tracks, all that throw it away. Put it in-
Yep. So the thread does go under the batting. Like I've had people put it through the batting.
Oh, I
but
had
this-
two both.
Yeah. But those are probably the most useful things.
If you're using cotton too, and you're not using a polyester, we all know that cotton gets off washed away than polyester thread. So that bottom is gonna fill up with a lot more, so make sure you want to use your brush and clean it out and things like that. But that also helps, like, I'm sorry. that's good.
Should you always use cotton on the bottom?
No, I'm just saying if you're changing out your spools and you don't use Clyde, you can use whatever thread you like. She was talking about that spool. You can use your close thread. You're just gonna have a lot more length.
You just gotta change it quite, clean it quite a bit more, which is fine, but just make sure you clean it.
Like when you go to change the bobbin, that little buildup's gonna be significantly different than if you're using a polyester thread.
Which is absolutely nothing wrong with that, you just gotta clean it.
There seems to be a lot of talk amongst the quilting people, like I'm talking like Alexander
Yeah.
about whether to use polyester or cotton thread. Because the thought is that cotton thread can break more easily, but polyester might be too strong for the fabric, and like over a couple of decades, is it gonna wear on your fabric more? And I mean, there really are people in the two camps.
I think there's valid arguments on both sides. I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer to either one. I think for most of the quilts that I make, for example, are they going to be around in 100 years to prove somebody right or wrong? Probably not. So I think it's somewhat of a moot point. If you're making what's going to be an heirloom quilt, a Baltimore album that's going to be in a museum someday, maybe this discussion or argument is possibly worth having. I don't think it's an argument that's worth people strengthening each other over. I think there's valid arguments on both sides. I think it's a lot more important that we make quilts that we enjoy and have fun rather than getting into deep arguments over something which really probably
I just
there's
use
no
whatever
right or
I
wrong.
have.
And yeah, I use the thread I have.
It's not worth the stress, to be honest with you.
Yeah, is what it was.
Also, if you have a glide like that with polyester, you actually spray it, put it in the freezer. Say you want to get a quilt done with it, like, and it's breaking a lot, spray it down, put it in the freezer, try again the next day. Usually, they'll revive that thread a little bit for you to be able to finish the quilt and then throw it away. Yeah.
I lost my mind.
That's why I used to have a mini fridge in my sewing room. And then
For the gym.
Gin and the tonic.
or the sewing machine thread.
Okay. Is there an age where thread is,
I'd say probably 2 or 3 years. Like,
but how do you know when you buy thread, how old it is to begin with?
Well, like I've had people give me baskets full of cotton thread that they obviously picked up in an auction. It's like 30, 40 years old. No, not going to use that, other than to make it pretty decorative. Cotton thread that's old, not really going to use it. And I'll just run it through and give it a tug test.
yeah,
And
you tug it,
if it's
put it
if it
between your fingers and it pulls apart.
if it's visibly faded on
Yeah.
one side or the other,
Yeah.
it's
Because I have heirloom quilts that are 50, 60, 80 years old. That thread is 80 years old.
that thread was also made completely differently than the thread we have
Then
today.
Okay.
So
So you were talking about heirloom quilt, but I have that.
Yeah.
The quilts I make, I tell them, the recipient, use it, don't put it.
that's what I tell them to.
Honor me by using it.
Yeah. Especially baby quilts. I tell them, you know what?
Exactly.
Let the kid completely have it disintegrate, and I will make you another one in 5 years. I would
Right,
much
right,
rather,
right, so they get another one.
I would much rather have it be completely shredded in 5 years than sitting on the shelf. I consider that the best use of the quilt is if the kid has completely shredded it by the time they're 6 years old.
And sometimes in the basement, it doesn't get any natural sunlight.
I actually saw a really cool YouTube video in the hotel last night where they actually took its old heirloom quilt, but it was like disintegrating. And they put tulle over top of it, and they were long arm and long arm to try and like keep. Because it was a family heirloom quilt or whatever. Actually, try and keep the fibers in place.
Yes.
There were a lot of negative comments that the thing. And I'm like, well, at least they used it to the point of disintegration, and they're trying to do something
Yeah.
to kind of revive it. So I found that as an interesting point last night. Like, and I did read through the comments, and people were pretty negative, but I was like, wow, you know, just to take the time to redo it, or you can still see through the tool, and they had re-quilted it in a stipple effect. Yeah.
I just did a project not long ago where college graduate and her mom had given me her baby quilts that, 3 or 4, and I found the same fabric that the baby quilt was made of. I have no idea how. It was like a baby handprint that actually reconstruct 4 or 5 of the missing squares. Yeah, so
Google image search was great for that.
it
nowadays.
was pretty amazing. Managed to reconstruct part of the quilt very carefully.
Society.
Yeah. But yeah, these scissors came in very handy during that project because I was lifting it up and taking literally cutting one stitch at a time to try and rip the backing off where it disintegrated on the back part. But managed to get it put back together. So she was pretty happy.
Wendy showed me yesterday that I didn't even know there was a folding up and on the buy it.
Again, we don't get.
Yeah.
I do that, and I use the highly scientific wad them all up in a ball and throw them in a corner. Because then there's no creases.
Or there's like actual tissue paper out there. If you're trying to truly like save a quilt, there's non-acidic tissue paper out there. So you would fold it like Wendy said on the bias, and then you would put that non-acidic tissue paper in it. But the best thing you can do if you're not going to use a quilt is if you have an extra bed, just throw. You can layer as many quilts as you want. They're not going to crease. Just throw them over a bed and leave them there until you want to do something with it. But if you do have to put it away, put it in non-acidic tissue paper. Don't use tape on it, and then put it in
And the other great way, in all seriousness, before you have the room is pool noodle. So, and I've done this. So you lay it out flat, and you take a pool noodle and you roll it around a pool noodle, and then put it by like a closet. It's top shelf.
Really?
Got kind of a big area. So I roll them on pool noodles and put them in there.
So how long can you do that before like the dies turn?
I wrap paper around the pool noodle.
Okay.
So, but the pool noodle just helps keep the middle from getting that big crease in the middle. So because they're clean up the ground. So I've stored them for a couple of years, and they come out perfectly flat, and they don't have any creases in them. Like at first I just rolled them, but then the middle part is all.
And then they have the bags up front. They have the bags for your quilts and stuff for storing all your quilts and things like that up front.
Yeah.
I just bring mine everywhere with me, so.
Yep. But yeah, the bias folding is a good way to do it. The pool noodles is probably the best way to do it because you've got no folds in them that way.
Right?
Nope, vertical. Yeah. So I've got a high closet shelf, and I put kind of boards so I can pile them in there.
We have to put the foot over and that.
No, you just start
Lay it on the ground flat and just roll the whole thing out.
Yeah, the tool noodle has to be as long.
Some of them aren't, so I get the long pool noodle. So like a king size one will have floppy areas on the end.
Or two.
Or two, yeah.
Just shove some tissue paper up there,
Yep.
non-acidic tissue paper up there.
Yep.
at the end, and you're good to go.
So the big ones, I do what she said. If I'm storing a big one, I'll just pile 3 or 4 in bed. But like,
Yeah.
you know, the lap size ones are the ones that you're sending up.
Do you mean you don't throw them over your lawn? You just hang them? We have some fancy quilt racks back here. You can get your quilt rack today. And throw your quilts over that for your kids.
I got a couple foot ladders in the house.
Yeah, I don't have any quilt ladders, but I'm thinking about getting that quilt rack back there.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I got a couple quilt ladders. I made my kid build one for 4-H for me last year.
Nice. Maybe I can get Kevin to do that. It's scary.
Any other questions? So, you know, storage is always a big question that people ask. I'm lucky my shop has metal walls, so I use magnets, like everything. I've got magnets. I've got,
The new Sew Tights are really great.
I know.
I just got one new Sew Tight system for my wall, my design wall. So I can hang it up and take it down, or hang my quilts up and take pictures of them if I need to.
Yeah. But yeah, I've got like, you know, the shoe storage systems can be repurposed really well. The sweater hanging system, high powered hooks. You know, Amazon has the rare earth magnets with hooks on that hold really well on your frame on the side here, and they can hold scissors, they can hold seam rippers.
All kinds of magnets on my frame. And
Yep,
I'm
all
also
kinds of magnets.
a huge fan of quilt stickers, like there's quilting stickers.
Oh yeah, I got stickers over
And
there.
I put stickers all over my frame. Of the back of it, like, my kids will come home. I'm a whatever star student. I'm like, stick it all on my frame up there. I'm so proud of you.
Yep, I got stickers on the machine. I got ones right here.
Oh, no, I'm not putting it on my machine.
No, I got one. My machine's old, so I don't have it. I don't have it. So I got one on the side that's really common with that quarter.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's magnets. I got magnets stuck all over here with hooks that have, you know. So I've got scissors on all the sides of the machine in hopes that somewhere it's actually a pair of scissors. I can never keep a pair of scissors attached around. Yeah, I got seam rippers that I tie threads to. Same thing. Tie ribbons on.
There are some great scissors up front though.
Yeah. So now, yeah, like I have just a little hook on the side and just a pair of these on several sides of my machine.
I used the thing that you stick to the side of the machine. I was scared to put it on my knee. Oh, never take this off. That's for me.
But mine's old, so I'm not afraid to stick.
I'll still lose them. Still lose it. With the tape measure, I have so when I'm generally teaching, I have one that you can actually measure the quilt with, and it's tape measure at all, and it has pink cushion on this side. And
Oh, that one little scissors? Yeah, we had that in here. We had that in here yesterday.
my daughter did. She's
Yeah.
a lot.
Now I've discovered I have to physically attach a seam ripper and scissors to the machine that I cannot easily take off, otherwise they will disappear. So most of my machines have seam rippers
I
tied
think I spend 90% of my
tied
time playing
to
with
the machine. Yes, they are tied to the machine. So yeah, I may have a scissors problem because my husband said there are so many scissors in my sewing room.
That is probably why my 2-year-old cut off her holler. And my husband goes, why do you always leave these scissors around? You know,
Gotta teach them early. Fabric scissors, not fabric scissors.
they were hair scissors, okay? She didn't just do it once, she did it twice.
Mine only did it once. My son, I get buzz cuts too, though. That makes it easy.
She was bald.
Any other questions? Storage tips anybody wants to share? Yes, ma'am.
In one of the earlier sessions, they talked about the zero center. You sell those here or with?
I'm sure we can get them when we go out.
Okay, but that.
So I don't have the top bar on mine, but I have Velcro all the way out to the edge of my right here, and I actually attach my zero center tape with it. Because a lot of people build up here, and then what do? You forget about it, and you run over it with your machine, and you sew it to. So we found that the next thing to put it is right here on the front of your machine. So ask me how I know. So, and then of course to find your center, you're going to use this bar, not the actual canvas leader, to find your center. You're going to measure from the corner of this bar to this bar fits pretty tight on the frame. This bar to this bar, and just going to find your center on that. Take that measure, put it down the chart. On the tape.
Other
That makes
questions?
sense? Okay. Okay. So we take Velcro, you put it on both ends of the thing. I have Velcro, extra Velcro strip right here. You put Velcro right here over this number 3, right? You're gonna put your center and tape measure right here. And then you would measure from this far to the end of this far, divide it in half, and then jump over the center, mark that one as a measure. And then you're
Maybe it's just telling me it's short.
Yeah.
Get the zero center. Zero things.
You know.
I looked on my checker website where I order supplies to see what kinds of things that we've been talking about here are available to sell in the store. And so you're gonna want to get all your specialty helping things and stuff, from here. You're not gonna find it at your local store. Stencils,
And then you just need to have me come up and teach them.
yeah, for your class.
So, have
Other questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's great. Hi, Glenn.
It's inspiration and
Yes, definitely.
oh yeah.
Oh, sure, what's up?
I just want.
Yeah. Yeah,
I got it like your shop.
oh, no, you get from me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It's amazing. You know, once there are like from, 30 people come here, maybe between all the classes, and it's so spread out, and I know that there's a good one.
Yeah.
I think of other places and stuff too.
What's in my area?
Yeah. Yeah. One story, but I don't know what range she's. For loners, I think she. And she's like an hour plus away. So. And then one, I think she has kind of. You know, I'm not sure. You know, yeah. You know, I don't. Yeah. And you have the same brand, but I'd rather say, you know. Because this is the mess. Yeah. Yeah. That was really, and I love it how you're talking about. Until I understand which one.
Yeah, well, let me
This is how you do this. Yeah. Because, yeah. Yeah. Sunday, but I'm just so excited that I can move on to other stuff. And the mom, they pretty much just do edge to edge. There's one woman who's pretty much retired from doing it. But if you like, she put her stuff in with her bow on top. She do their dance, fair, you know, whatever. And she, it's like whatever. She's really good. Nobody else really does. I think that was oh, cool. That is really cute. That's so cute. Yeah. Right, everybody is crazy about watermelons. So she got a watermelon case for her phone. This is what side on. And she got the watermelon drink mug. And then she got her rain shorts, like watermelon, green fading into white, fading into the pink. Yeah, she did a great job. And then she just used marker to make the scene. And well, so now I said, no, no, you really don't use watermelon colors. And make a jelly, but make it a slice shape. So that's gonna be our question now. So she's actually gonna make an oval one and cut it in half. She's got all of her strips cut out. I wish I would have thought of this in January. So, but yeah, it's really being teaching the class in the fall or maybe later.
Yeah, something like that. What do I type for being like, it doesn't come up on the thing.
But you can just come in with your project yourself, right? And that's much more intense.
And then.
Yeah. Because here you have to see it, right? You want to enjoy your, like, you're doing, and you feel like you're actually tired.
I would like to make
Yeah,
My part would be quilting,
yeah.
so maybe something like that.
Like for what's about,
Yeah.
you can sign up and you can say, I want to do one quilt a month or, you know, one quilt a year or whatever. And then once you reach your quota,
Yeah.
you know, you see that.
I just want it to be, you understand, you understand what you did.
Yeah.
You know, I'm charging and people things like this when it's there, well, you know.
I was gonna tell Serena something. What's my social advertising? She's at the store. And she said she's some of the medicines. The big one that is actually the closest. That's from Dr. Jones. So she can carry a little of the fringe stuff too. Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it goes through me a lot of time. It's already, you know, put together for me.
Yeah.
And I do a couple of design my store was known for Kansas so I carry a lot of stuff about everything that's really rustic looking. And the cabin field is really popular. Because it's just so natural. And I don't carry any stuff. And then what I want to do is stuff and just the pastels to the sports. And so I have a few important over. She and I think that I don't know if it's but she still and I really like that. My family, my mom's side there. So we come to Pennsylvania and like so we had until our state ran out the books that they were working on. So I was
Can I go to my car and grab the full picture?
you say for that. Yeah.
No, I don't really, I just, kind of say. I gotta get some more water.
When she's ready to go out, I'm not ready. I'm trying to go home. You know, with Daddy, that would be good.
Well, just for you.
Oh, you're going to the car, Veronica? In my pink bag, my pink plastic bag. Grab a car. Yeah. I think it's like 4. Yeah. I heard it's up here. Yeah.
Oh, is that? Longer. Yes. Yeah, I was the one rolling. Okay.
This was my favorite.
Yeah, that's. Yeah.
I just don't know that on the top of my head. I have to write on it.
You want some?
So I made them one. I think they have all the candy material. Marble. Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah, my husband was a camper. I think, okay, so I have my car, yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I went to like the church. So it's, you know, so it was like, it's not. And so. Because church, and so I had this for holders, and so they were talking about one of the lights. And it's funny, and like it like some and some just beautiful designs. Okay. They don't. And so, you know, you're not doing like, you know, that's how you're forever. Yeah, I'm not. Okay. This is March. I know that March. You probably not to because you and also
Next word, actually. Then even people explaining how to drive. Oh. There you go, babe.
I got
Put it back, put your back in your truck.
I do have to do that. I don't come up with them. The NBA salary. She didn't have to pay. You have this. So I got the same. So, Marshall. And I have to see. That's right. By her, what she said here, she went to the left. She was stitch. Back to the circle, not her. No, you went to circle. I don't know what else. Move one. And you get it.
It's nice. No, it's those capital. Yeah.
But the ones that don't, right, it's. Are you?
Yes, yeah. Well, right. Yeah, and at first,
I have, I have a picture I took now of a friend on the edge of the
They still have.
we went there for spring break, and it's this huge job. And he's like, there, geez, man. And so I was trying to think, but we can't, and I was like, oh, this is like money. It was probably feet from the edge. Yeah, not very far at all. And we took the picture. We took the picture. And then I just went on to be the whole rest of my life. I can't look at the picture without. Like my, like, yeah, it's all here. Yeah, it's not like fear of heights, because obviously I can find like this fear there. It's but yeah, I love it. It's totally fine to be looking at the picture. I'm almost ready. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure about the way anyone would have been. Luckily, yeah. Yeah. But we're, you know, it's just. I had time. I do it right. We ended up, we were up, we ended up on the edge. And it's fallen tree. And we ended up finding these smart. We went under the tree. And we had life jackets. Life jacket got approached on the branch. That's they couldn't get out. It wasn't that I couldn't swim. Yeah. The life jacket was staying up. And I eventually got out of it. It's still here. It's always, that's one of those things that makes you wonder, like, what if I had a life jacket? Would I have made that easier? Would I drown? You know, for sure. I don't know. No, you just never know. That you were talking about, I was up. Probably good stories. Yeah. Yeah. Bro, you kind of scared me. Yeah. Hey, man. What's the machine number? Oh, yeah. Looking for a small one? Oh, big more. There should be, you know, on par. But you should be able to get one. It's, that's what it mounts. Yeah. But you know, yeah, I won't really like mark point one. Like when I'm marking point, little bold stick. Right, right. What? Yeah. Right. Probably marking something. Right. Yeah. 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 right, Mr. How'd it go this morning, with all this thunder and lightning? All right. Guys kind of worried, lost power. Really? Well, see you do. So.
Rick, do you have any MR20s left?
I'll let her know later if I need you. Yes, I'll be right over. Let me finish. Okay.
Oh, we still got this way. Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's, yeah, like, she said she was correct. If you mind, I can't see it. There, there's a box. Okay, all right. Yeah. This is the magic thought. I got this here.
They just beat you up, Ron.
And the reason I like this is because I made this in my bag. I would do that about. So this you can go like this and get just a little bit out at a time.
Would you say Dollar Tree?
Dollar Tree. And that's plain, you use plain generic pieces. Can't you can without smells or lotions or anything. Yes. Well, I felt your name. I felt to get it in the ear. All right, thank you.
Yours is so much.
That is, she's got magic on.
Oh, gosh.
And you squeeze that so that it's a little bit on the outside. It'll slide it into your sugar, it's not on going up. And because it's rubbing up.
Now. You ever do anything?
All right, so machine.
No.
Yeah.
You. Yeah.
Okay.
Or out of room, that's the worst. Every other foot. Red room, right in the hand. So, hey, I'm lucky to get this. I do get.
Yeah.
I also want to say something. Most people don't know. I know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
No,
See,
That's what I heard. Yeah. The person bought it from had one of the and what was sprayed on there, it cleaned everything up.
I know. So that's supposed to be now. Okay. I do have one question. Yes. What we work? She tried to sell it. She was. I don't think so.
I'm spreading something. You're a small bag.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, no, they're not.
Oh, yeah. Just so you know, we need to use all the back. I got to stop talking. Anyway.
No, I did not.
Perfect. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We lived there for a few hours.
I bet you did. I bet you did.
They actually basically ran out fully up.
Let my daughter, she went there. But, you know, I didn't have to work at some of those places. They will, they use chemical because they start to push your faster.
No, and it's, yeah. My first thing to do, they don't come in. And yeah, well, yeah. We leave our clothes in here and for our get system. How do you like that? Like, now, it's kind of- then the next thing is to spray. You clean your eye. Then they have a tool. Like a great. Look at it.
The first thing I would suggest, I understand what you've done. Always go back to the check your rate,
Hot water.
make sure that your rate is between the two kids, you know, intentionally. Check to see if it's slipping there. I still need it. I think that texture apart, before they take them apart. There's parts that on the table, and how they can see people don't this. It's sandpaper. So, dirt, sandpaper,
pH down.
card, everyone. Anyway, you get going to certain stages.
No.
That's.
Then the last time.
Either your head down, everybody do it.
Just with suction.
That's why.
Why, you know,
Yeah.
But then there's also one other thing. They have a special stuff. Yeah.
Put everything. I just need the 5 gallon bucket.
But anyway, but
Yeah.
technically, that not yet, I stuff for new law. I'm sure, I thought they were directly told them what to do, and so basically, I can send it to you because I'm waiting for her to tell me what answer we got her back. So I told her to go and shut the press and how we unplug that. Present my proposition. For that. Take care of my one. And back up to
It's hard to watch it. My mom's got it. So it's hard to watch. Are you vegan?
No, I'm a baby.
Oh, I didn't say you're not vegan. You're vegan for a few more days.
Well, I was gonna sneak back in.
I don't want to go and interrupt you.
Oh, you could have.
I know,
I'll be coming in.
but I think I'm gonna order all of the videos. They,
Yeah. Yeah, or,
there's different.
no, I go there, I said,
There's the YouTube one and then there's the.
oh, yeah.
Not you. But you rent.
It's this, that's.
Yeah, but I'm read it out. And I think a lot of production.
Are you on? Are you?
No, because Jordan said.
No. Oh, yeah, you would get.
After I'm done with the
Yeah.
I'm going. She called me on the after yesterday. It was awesome. I was in happy sandwich. She had them before it goes bathroom. I'll see you guys in a little bit. I'll take my clothes back.
You can call her.
Okay, I'm seeing it. I can see it.
Did you grab two, Ron? What? Just one. And, one, you know, okay. I don't mind. I know. I know, I said.
Why do you keep them upstairs?
No, I'm good.
Well, I don't know how many sheep.
Let's enjoy this. Where are we as far as? So, track is already. It's already one. Like that one, I gotta find out if you're doing fast, it's gonna, that's locked out. You find?
I did my door. I don't know that. Yes.
I'll be back then, start. I'm gonna take this out. So, I have to print more, but.
Oh,
Give
good.
it-
Time for the free-
give it to me. You and I.
Yeah.
My daughter is New York. All right, let me take a break. I got one left. Be there, just. No, I just lay down in the chair and keep game. I already talked to him yesterday. No, it's a new one. I don't get it. All right, what did you get? What's going on with that book? All right. Not something that I haven't encountered yet. Yeah, well, I can tell you. So we got, first one you did. Yeah. Yeah, well. There's still. Well, oh. That is the one that said this. Well. No, no.
Yeah, yeah.
He RCA. Well, that's. He could get to work. He's one of these. She would wait.
I do. I have one on the pro. It doesn't have automation though. Even though that's about that. What I have about it. Do you have your?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. This one, it goes back. That one goes. You go up. You go up. I do whatever the book should. Okay, but it should be after no, not the book. This one like here, this is on your shoe. And then, yeah, mine. Yeah, yeah. That one. But, yeah. No, it's like could be right. It might not be worth it.
They do that on the credit card.
But me, now that I know we have to say, she was all there.
I have a story.
Yeah, this one.
Oh, that's Stich work.
Because it's straight. I mean, just in general. So. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That's the.
Yeah. Okay, no, thank you. Did you know she won? What today? I got all kind of goodies. And two of the scissors. Did you get it for the second? Yes, I did. Okay. I don't think I've won anything since the 1900s. So. It's a belated. Yeah.
We have a schedule. Tell me what I'm supposed to say.
Flower evaluation, the next one, 2:00 is fine.
Yeah, mine I'm gonna do in there where I got the full time.
Okay. Even the ruler set for lighting.
I will need a ruler plate for it.
I did not get one.
Yeah, there's actually one here. Take off this. Put it on so that.
So.
I'm not closer, and I don't have chalk select.
Yeah, because I didn't know they
Well, they're both a half an inch, so a quarter of an inch for the needle to the outside of the ruler.
I just saw a drip on that.
Well, and it's wet.
You can see where it's at. Got a leak.
Uh-huh.
Now that race cannot happen.
Actually, that looks like the sun is turning.
Yeah.
It's actually nice out right now.
Yeah. I woke up at 7 this morning and going, I can't be trying to get up yet. It's still dark.
And it was down there and lighted pretty good. So that,
Yeah. So let's talk about automation here.
slow.
And, so I'm gonna do the look at the outreach here. So Lindsay, she doesn't do anything at the outreach. And since she wasn't here yet, you know, have a seat. And some of you have automation. Is there anyone that doesn't have automation? You don't see, it's ordering hers, so she's waiting. And they will come. So, look at that brings me along, discussion on information. Like you. But this is primarily intended to answer your questions about automation and to show you the clarification already. Some people think that, I'll get automation and all I want to do with it is edge to edge, because then it'll just do it faster and I can go to that. All of that, which is true. It's true. You can have your automation do that, and I recommend not leaving it alone. It looks like you have an embroidery machine, as soon as you step out of the way or turn your back on it, it stops on you. Then you gotta restart it. So automation, we've got a lot of things going on. You've got your machine working, running, and you've got the automation that's moving around. So it's not something, you have two things working. It's not something that you want to do and just go off and do something else. It needs to be there. For one reason.
So really, no.
Automation. There's been a lot of changes in it over the years. And it's great to get enhancements, what we can do more and more. At a very basic level, you can place a block. You can create an edge pattern. So you can And in the design process, what you see is what you get. People in my class are tired of that right now. But it's the truth. What you see on the screen is what is going to stitch for you. So you use your eyes a lot. You know, does that look good? Do I have enough space between my rows or not? Do I need to adjust that? Because there's no magic button you press and it automatically adjusts it. We rely on our eyes to tell us whether it's going to look good or not good. On the high end of automation, it has features that you can do all kinds of things with. We talked about point to point yesterday, is a very powerful feature that you can do with a gold, with Quilt Imagine, or in a telequilter, it's called line pattern, where we can quickly place patterns that have a start and stop at two different places. So triangles, triangle, 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 password triangles, and stitch them and stitch back. And it does it in one pattern instead of one placement. Little features like that, things to echo patterns, all kinds of tweaking that we can do with our pattern. The question that I often get is, if I buy automation, is that going to stifle my creativity? No. The answer is emphatically no, because I can choose patterns now, pantograph patterns or block patterns or things that I want to do that are way more complicated and fussy than I would ever want to try doing hand guided. But I wouldn't even have the sketch. You know, I have some paper pantographs. They're nice. They're like this tall with a lot of this and backtracking and all kinds of stuff in it, and you get beautiful feathers and all of that. Well, about the time you get halfway across the road doing a hand guided, you need to take a headache pill, you know, because your eyes are, like, you know, trying to follow that little dot. And it's really hard. It's really hard. So, no, it's not going to start your creativity. If anything, it gives you more options to become more creative, because you can choose patterns that are complex. You know, how many little pebbles can you make and keep them not sitting around in circles? Well, if you don't use a ruler or template to do that, you know, it's hard to do that. So you can do so much more than the automation and become very creative. So where do you get your creative ideas from? Yeah, exactly. Seeing other quilts, go to quilt shows. Sometimes the guild shows, there may be one or two quilters that are, you know, doing some really good stuff. But go to some of the bigger national shows, take a look at what they're doing and the kind of techniques that they're doing. And a lot of it is done with roller work. You can do similar techniques in your automation using the features that are there. So I created 1 point here, 1 point here. It'll stitch a straight line for you. You know, just stitching straight lines. You can do out the things that look like you start out with a ruler, which you have it, you know, and create many of those same kind of things. So when I go to shows, I look carefully at the quilts that are out there. When I did yesterday's Canada, the quarter class, I told the class that I was at a show and there was a beautiful quilt across the aisle from me, and it had a mitered border. And I'm looking at that for several days, and I walked in there and I looked at that. How did they do that? It's done, you know, not by hand, it's over automation. And finally, I started thinking about what features I had in my automation and how I could repeat that. And this was like using triangle patterns. And the way to do it was to merge one little thing together, going on the spaces. So I had to think about what features I had, how could I use those features to get the results that I wanted to see, what I wanted to do. So one of the things, regardless of the automation that we have, and I said that to the class this morning, is you play with your software, play with your template. You'll learn more by playing with it than you will by ever taking a class from me. Although you can still take classes. Okay, but sometimes it'll jumpstart you. you know, with the idea, you know, and then now you know how to use it, and you can kind of pull in your own ideas, and go like, shit, what if I just do whatever with it? And the more you know about what it does, the more you can be creative with, shit, not this structure, not this special space. What can I do? How can I get a pattern there and make it look like it belongs in this space? It gives you more tools in your arsenal to draw upon to get your ideas. So does automation automatically make things quilt faster for you?
I would guess no.
The answer is no. Now with some things, you know, like a pantograph, yes, and it's less tiring. You're not standing at the back, you know, moving yourself along, and you know, all of that. So pantographs are one thing that you can usually stitch faster with automation than you can by doing by hand. It just goes along faster that way. Custom quilting is always going to be a custom quilting. That's putting a black pen in a section pattern, you know, all of that. That's always going to be time consuming if you do it hand guided or using a stencil or rulers like Veronica demonstrated this week. Those are always going to be time consuming. And at the frame with automation, it's still time consuming. It's still time consuming. Sometimes picking out what you want to put in the block takes way longer than it does to stitch the block itself. Now that Dream Big panel that's out on the wall and the showroom out there was done by Ann Olson, who is a picture of that were placed. And she's a very, very talented hand-guided coach. That was done all hand-guided. That was not done with combination. It took her less time to do that than it did me with the automation, because with her eyes, she just, you know, did her background fills in there and did it. We got to the next one and did something different. With automation, I had to place lots of little points around each of those petals to define the space, bring the pattern in, and then size it into the space. So I had, you know, maybe 10 minutes at least on each of those petals, probably longer on some of them, doing all that work. Well, she just would, since she, you know, then get the next one stitches, you know. And she's been doing this for 25 years. You know, she has all those patterns in her head. You know, they're all there. And I had to do them one by one. You know, I got similar results with my Dream Big. Placed 48 or 49 patterns in the space. She did. But if we were doing them side by side, she would have been sitting down drinking her coffee long before me. I don't even drink coffee, so I don't even get it. So anyway, she would, you know, the time all the time was less than what I spent on mine, which is about 23 hours. So that didn't that's just on the frame. So lots and lots of opportunity I feel for automation. And when I got it, at first it was kind of like computers and like the techie stuff, and I just learned how to do it. But over the years, I realized how powerful that automation can be. And I can do things that I would never dream of hand guided, even if I could develop my skills to that point, like that has. I can still be really creative with what I do with the automation, because we have features and functions in our automation systems today that allow us to have that, to be creative, to express ourselves, to take those patterns and use them in ways that probably the digitizer wasn't even thinking about. Once it came up to that idea, and everybody has a different vision for what they want in their space. So we created many different ways to present what we have with automation. So just quickly to show you some things here. My class has already seen these, but block patterns in the middle here. The technique over here, we're using point to point that I told you about yesterday, or line pattern that's up here. We can take patterns and turn them vertical, put into sashing spaces as long as it fits within the float space. You can do a vertical design like that. This one was the second challenge that I did to myself on using automation to do applique. So these four patterns are four patterns that are in our block patterns and in quilt match. The other one I have out there with butterflies on it. We have a butterfly. And so I've done applique using my embroidered machine. And you start at the bottom and work to the top. So I don't know. Try it here. The butterfly first, I've got several layers. So I stitched basically one time to get the position out of my piece of fabric on. And then stitched around it, trimmed it away with my scissors. And then I used the same pattern and decreased the size of it here to stitch within that space. The same pattern. And then I did the background pattern here, cropping out. And those all the clips and quilt magic to clip that out and just stitch the pattern around the outside of it, but not in the space here. So that's just a challenge to myself to see how far can I take what I got in my automation to do something. Is it really handy to try trimming around the outside of that with it on the frame and not moving it? No, not really handy, but it can be done. So you might not be able to do every kind of applique you want, but start with something, try it out, see how the technique goes, and go from there. At the fall session that we had here last November, one of the demonstrations that I did was reverse applique with this. So I started with 7 layers that I had put onto my patch, started with my block, and then I started sewing on top of them. So that particular pattern, I didn't bring that sample with me, but it was a regular block pattern, and it had like little bubbles in it. So I did it, and then when I got it off the frame and trimmed out around each of those circles, and so I had this really neat pattern. And the fabric that I had underneath was turquoise, and the one on top was black. So then you had these turquoise bubbles, coming out of there. So lots of different ways to look at something like that. Creative with using just a pattern. And we have the opportunity to do borders, sashings, all kinds of things we want to do. This one is another table runner with some of the point to point. I think everybody was here yesterday, right? Point to point now.
No, I wasn't.
Okay, so this one right here, are you familiar with point to point? You don't have
I don't have automation anyway.
Okay, so automation, what we do with point to point is we take a pattern that we can repeat around. So this is a chevron shape pattern. Here, down to a point here, out to here, another 2 star points up there.
So when you do an automation, but it doesn't have to be a square or a rectangle. And
Any shape. So instead of buying a pattern, or getting a pattern that's a star and placing it on here and hoping that my quilting under my piecing is good enough for it to get good. This one is one pattern that's repeated 4 times. So the points are placed here and here to place this one pattern. And this next one, and this one, placing it 4 times. And by first putting a reference going around the outside of my block to define it so I can see it on my screen, I can tweak the placement of these points so that my pattern goes out into those star points there. So it's just a technique that's point to point. I'm not writing about pattern one of the advantages to a pattern like this is, what if my star block is too big to fit in the throat of my machine? And I can't, how would I place that pattern and stitch it out? I can't. So when you've got a quarter section of it, or even a half section of it, I can do it twice, or 4 times. Half it and then roll it and fit it in the sewing machine and do it again. So again, point to point is a technique that speeds up our process because we're placing multiple patterns, and when we say finished or okay, call it pattern. It's going to stitch everything that I placed. So that was this, and possibly my continuous curves there at the same time, saving me time for placing each thing and stitching it up with it. Another thing here, a comparison between automated and not automated. You think about panographs. If you're using a paper panograph, whatever the size is the size. 6 inches, it's 8 inches, it's whatever it is, and that's what you use on your quilt. Well, if you're using that panograph on a small child's quilt, it may be totally out of scale with the quilt itself. And when you look at it, you're going, what is it? Because you're looking at something smaller, you're expecting a smaller pattern and saying a bigger pattern. And it's hard to identify. So with automation, of course, we can size our blocks, we can size our panographs, we can make them whatever we want. Now, does that mean we could make it really, really tiny? Or ginormous? Well, within range, yes, you can do that, but you have to think about it. If I make it really tiny, is it going to be so dense that, it's not going to be realistic on the quilt? Or if I get it so big, it's like spread out so far that it's not really going to hold my quilt together well, things like that. You have to use a little bit of thinking and discretion when you're doing picking a pattern and placing it and using it. But yes, you can. I did a little test. I was at a quilt show. This was with IQ, that particular show. And I had taken, he wanted me to come for the 3 days of the show. And with Nolting, he wanted the Nolting machine to be there to demonstrate it. So we took my show table and the Nolting. I took 3 yards fabric, 1 yard for every day. Well, with automation, you could go through a yard of fabric in no time at all, or 3 yards fabric. So I'm going like, okay, I need my 3 yards to last for 3 days. So it's like 2 rows of advancing there. How am I going to make this happen? Okay. The way to make it happen was you either stitch very slow, and people can go like, oh yeah, it's working, and ask questions and all of that. Or I could shrink my pattern down and make it smaller. So we started doing that. I was starting out making blocks that were, 8 inches, and then I went to 6, and then I went to 4. And so then I got to thinking, how small can I go? Let me just see how small I can go. So there was one particular pattern that was not extremely dense. If you had a 4 size, it was not a lot of stitching in that space. 1 inch. I stitched that pattern in 1 inch. And I have the sample at home showing my progression from bigger to smaller. Because it was kind of amazing to me to think, could I actually, I was thinking, is this going to stitch well? So I slowed it down so you could actually have time to transition around the block, do it. But I was amazed that I could get it 1 inch. So, don't figure you got to go buy a new pattern to put in a smaller space. You may have something that's not overly dense. It's smaller. Stitch it smaller. Think about what you have in your pattern library before you find something. Not that we should buy something. Let's keep those people in business too. So, questions? This was a sample I did for our cheat-check in Sun Valley folks. There's a surprise. It's actually Sun City Surprise is the next little calendar. But it all comes in, you get off the airplane, you get off the airline, get your rental car, and you drive and drive and drive, and you're in the city the whole way out, and it's little, little towns. You go to Phoenix, and then, something and something and something, and you're still in the city.
Yeah. We lived there for 43 years.
The whole valley.
Was that a stencil you used to put Sun Valley on or?
Okay, so yeah, Sun Valley here, I used in Quilting Engine, we have a font feature, it's found in plugins. And when you open it up and start to work with it, a keyboard will come up on your screen. So I typed in Sun Valley and then quilts and then 2024, 2025. Oh no, this was this spring. This was this spring's project. And the neat thing about these fonts is it takes like a single line, like we would draw, and makes it into, inside and outside of that, so that you can actually see it. Now, the green on here is ink tense pencils. So I love ink tense pencils because they're like a colored pencil. I colored in each space, and when you wet that, it becomes a permanent dye. Permanent pigment in your fabric.
Inks.
Ink tense. INKTENSE. Ink tense. And it comes as a set in a little metal thing like colored pencils do. They have lots of colors, but you can blend your colors as well. So it's like working with watercolor or colored pencils and shading it with yellow and blue and you get green.
Can we use those to write on the label? If you want to make a label, or do you have any ideas for labels?
So labels are another thing. Let me just finish with this. With the ink tense, I colored it in, and it doesn't become a dye or pigment until it's wet. Now, if I just were to wet this when I did it, it would bleed like that. It would spread. So you use aloe vera gel, little brush, and just put it in the space, color in the line in the space, and then let it dry. Once it's wet, it becomes permanent. And then just to go beyond that, I usually heat set it with my iron just to make sure. But yes, it can be washed and come in the middle of the end. So it's a really neat little thing that you can do. Child's quilt, put their name on it. An anniversary quilt or a birthday, something special. And when you're using the fonts feature, when you get done with it, you have to save it or it goes away. But once you save it, you go here and select and sew, you bring it in. So it's just text that you're writing. You place it in the space. So this was placed with 4 points. So if it was a big space, it would still be the same, but just bigger. Okay, so small space, big space, whatever it is, you put it in the space that you want to. Fonts just creates the text for you. And any font that is resident in your tablet, Microsoft tablets have a lot of fonts in them.
Pages.
Yeah, pages of them. So it could be script, it could be block, it could be, any kind of thing that you want. Any of the text fonts that are there are your name.
So TTY or TTP, not TTY, that's great. TTP type of fonts, or does it have? There's 2 different types of fonts.
They're in there.
So it doesn't matter which one you have.
It's whatever's in the list. There's a long list. Now, one thing I would say is when you put this on like this, and go to your quilting interface to quilt it out, there's going to be a lot of trim points here. Because sometimes you have Outside, now this one, stitches all like in the letter O, for example. It's gonna stitch the inside, and it's gonna stitch the outside. There's gonna be a trim point between the inside and the outside. There's gonna be a trim point between each letter and the next, each number. And this is from experience. Do not take those trim points out. Don't move them, because when you do, what happens? You're gonna get a stitching line, okay? Which you probably don't want. Okay, you leave those trim points in, you treat them as a jump stitch, and then when it's all done, you go back and you turn your threads in the top and on the back. But yes, the ink tips pencil is, just something to embellish that and just.
And I can't get
So don't go to Hobby Lobby, they don't.
I can't get them generous.
No, you can't. No, they're on Amazon.
Okay.
They are on Amazon, and if you look around, there's a little difference in pricing from one place to another, but they're all pretty much the same, and when you look at them, you go like, what for that, it's like $19 for 12 pencils or something. But they last a long time, and they're a specific type of colored pencil, to use, and you can do it on paper too. You can use intense on paper, or like your, one color paper and stuff like that. They're meant for art people. We're just applying it to fabric here, and it works. So it's a cool thing to do. So that's another little creative thing that you can do with book matching and stuff on.
Are they specific just to fabric?
So I think we can use them on paper and all of that.
They're on Amazon.
What's,
Not found.
yeah, what's the
In the packet, set at 24 for $62.
Yeah, that's 24. So I have 12, I think, in my case. Because the thing about it is you can use two colors to blend it. And you're putting out fabric, how much you blend it anyway. So yeah, they're fun to use. Back, we live near Rochester, New York, which is the home of Susan Anthony. The black section. She was helped us get our women's rights vote, and she actually passed away before that it became law that women could vote. Well, anyway, so the Susan B. Anthony House in Rochester, 2019, was having a big celebration for all of that, and one of the things, activities that they did was people could make a blog that had something to do with voting. So I did one, and I have a granddaughter who was, she's what, 16 now, she's a trad doctor. 12 maybe. I had her do a block as well. So we used ink tints. You could do the block in the way you want to make a patch block or whatever. She drew the block. So she drew some people, she drew both, go vote, sign on it, things like that. I did it with an ink tints pencil, and then we writed it down, and she created a little area, just like, she did this little picture about voting. And so that was one of the blocks that was Susan Anthony voting people that was on there in 2019. So lots of things that you can do with the intents. Another thing you can do those is your grandchildren. Have them draw something. 5 years old, have them participate in the quilts and draw some pictures for you and put them in the quilt. They can do it with the intense pencils and write it down and make sure it's on it. Set on the light spray. Set on the light spray. Yeah. White spray. White fabric. It's just a fun activity to involve children, in quilting.
So if they draw their own picture and you just color the fabric, then you don't worry about the fonts or anything like that. You just do whatever you want. You want to quilt,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So to answer your question about label, Well, this one doesn't. This one does. I have an embroidery machine, so I usually do mine on my embroidery machine. I'll embroider take it out. So this one, these are actual 1930s blocks. Somebody turned into the club a whole pile of them. They found them in this house, you know, put together anything. They said, take as many as you want. So our club was coming up on an anniversary. Our club, we had a 1936. Continuously meeting. It began at the Rochester Museum and Science Center in 1936. Then they transitioned to a church for more space, and now we're the Jewish temple because they have this big open space that we needed. So the blocks were available, and I picked up 4. And then I wanted to try doing some techniques with point to point that might represent how a hand quilting would have quilted in the 1930s. So that's why I did what I did here. Feathers, the outlining, not going through to kind of mimic that. But so this one got a label on it. I show. I try to put labels on everything, and especially if it's a quilt, we're going to put right. You know, 50 years, somebody's going to look at it. You know, I wish people did that years ago. Actually, my dad passed away, my mom had passed away 20 years later. My dad had this little cedar chest about this wide, about this tall. Was my grandmother's, his mom's. And so after she passed away, it sat at my mom and dad's house. And until dad passed away, and my sister and I are looking at that cedar chest going like, gee, what's in there? And so we're looking at this little cedar chest. So we opened up the cedar chest, and I'll tell you, our jaws just dropped. There were 4 antique quilts, 4 of them. And we're looking at each other. We're both quilters, and we're going, gee, that's we should have done this before Dad died. Because, of course, there's no labels on them. And I have a friend who's a quilt appraiser, and so I showed her the quilts, and she goes, well, this one's about 1890. This one's about 1895 based on the fabrics. And one was closer to about 1925 or 30. Well, my grandmother was born in 1893. So I know she didn't make those quilts. So it was probably mother or grandmother. We don't know. And it would have been nice to know, and I'm not sure Dad would have known, but he might have. But we don't know. So, label on your quilt. So this is one way to do labels. Is by an embroidery machine. Another way is there are archival pens that you can buy that are, what's the name of those? Yeah, so you go to a place. Pardon?
Private bathroom.
You know, there's places you can go like Staples or online. I bought a pack of them that have different points. Some are very fine, some are thicker points. And they are non-acidic archival pens that are permanent. And I always set those as well. That's right, right with them. Yes, you can use those to write on a piece of fabric and then sew it to them. Well, just so it's documented. So things that should go on a label is if you have a name, if you gave the quilt a name, put that on there. Who did it? Who made the quilt? Maybe who it's for. You know, it's for so and so. My birthday or whatever it is, the year that it was done in. And another nice thing to put on it is where it was made. So mine say Avon, New York. Because regionally, quilt styles are different. Some areas of the country, they're stuck on one kind of quilting design or pattern, while you go across the country, that's totally different. They're different. So regionally, in the history of quilting, you'll see certain types of patterns in certain places. Like the Baltimore album quilts. So that's an East Coast thing, primarily in the Maryland area, Maryland, Virginia, a little bit up in Pennsylvania, was where most of those originated, the original ones were from that area. Out in the Midwest, nothing like that, nothing like that. Yeah, so having a location on the label too, or you make a quilt and you send it to your daughter, your granddaughter, and somebody halfway across the country. That there's a connection with where that originally came from, versus where it happens to be later on in life. Looks like. So they're labels. Yeah. So questions? Anything on automation quilting, especially for those of you that don't have it yet?
Yes. Not happening
Oh, why not?
for me.
And that's just why you should do it. I have this question. Well, and sorry, Rick, this is one of them.
I still know I got your
Yeah. So the thing about it is, I've been doing sewing for Nolting since 2001, and many times the husband is with the wife and they're walking through, and she's kind of going, no, it's kind of nice, what's the price? Oh, I don't know. And the husband is standing there ready to write the check. Just get it. Just get it. You'll love it. You need to have it. You deserve it. Just buy it. Oh, I don't know. I need to think about it. Not sure what you're about it. I'd like you to have it. He wants to write the
Because
check.
he's looking for a fishing boat he wants to buy.
So,
Already bought that.
so that's the other scenario. The other scenario is a preliminary, she's with a couple of friends, she comes by, she's looking at this, she'd really like to buy it. And I'm going like, yep, can you hear it? Yeah. And she's going like, it's a lot of money. Yeah, I said, your husband, what does he do? Does he like to ride motorcycles? Yeah. Does he have a Harley? Oh, yeah. Do you like to fish? Oh, yeah. Does he have a fishing boat? Well, sure. Okay, well, don't you deserve it? He has something to enjoy your craft? Of course you do. If he can afford to buy those. So then she goes, well, how many quilts would I need to quilt for people to pay for it? I'm going like, is your husband truck people around in his Harley? Trying to pay for it? Well, does he sell the fish he gets when he goes fishing? To pay the boat?
Like that in the rain and the
I
snow.
did it.
Don't ride with the boat and the motorcycle in the rain.
So, yeah, we're very cautious. We want to make sure the money doesn't run out, we do what we want to do in life. But we don't do life once. And if quilting is what you really enjoy, and you think you would like to become more creative, have more opportunity, with an automation system, even if you can make it work, because then you'll really like it. And you'll really find ways to use it, become more creative than you can be by pushing it under your sewing machine, doing things like that. And just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. Do not feel obligated to quilt somebody else's quilt. To pay for that. That's a hobby. It's your hobby. It's something for you to enjoy and relax with. Yeah.
That's all right. I'm used to it.
That's what I told my husband. His hobbies are all outside. And mine are inside, so if I need that machine and, to have that hobby.
Have they ever taken away a license to quilt as versus a license to drive?
Well, yes, sometimes it kind of gets to that point because as we age, our mental capacities might not be as acute as they were when we first started. And so Ron and I have seen some cases where it's almost to the point where they're not taking care of the machine like they should, or they're not thinking through what they're doing as well as they should. So that's an unfortunate thing, but it's really, really close. So that's a little family. It's that point. It's in my soul.
That'll be rough.
Hopefully I don't get to that. Hopefully I'll hurt my mind. I taught when I was teaching school, our sixth grade teacher, great guy. And so he was, into the age when he could retire, but he didn't want to. So I said to him, John, not that I'm pushing you out the door or anything, but how long do you want to teach? And he said, until the day before, I don't know how to find my way home. Because he loved teaching. He was a really, really, really good teacher.
And you're right there.
Thank you. So he had one classroom rule. Any teachers in here? He had one classroom rule, and his teachers would think, okay, don't throw spit box, don't do this, don't do that, don't sit down, be quiet, He had one classroom rule, and this is what it was. If you are doing anything that impedes somebody else's opportunity to learn, that is wrong. That boils it down to, I mean, you think about it, so you're being disrupted by talking to somebody. You don't have the opportunity to learn, so you better stop talking. And everything you can think about is distraction that goes on. Boils down to that one thing. One thing. So there you go.
Easy to revert back on that.
Yeah. So that's